It's 2 degrees in Moy River. It's the beginning of August, and city folk would argue that it's not the best time to be awake until you see the magnificence of the sun peering out from behind the horizon. This is Balmoral Stud, the property and enterprise of Mark and Nicola Koppes. And the buck stops there. The staff are also committed to excellence, and that is Balmoral's goal. It is achieved to the extent possible through meticulously repeating tried and tested actions, through individual attention to each and every horse on the property, through focus on detail, and through regular research into methods around the world and new developments. The 2 core activities of pre-training for owners and trainers and of preparing youngsters for ready-to-run sales are founded on tailoring each day for each and every horse. Every day, up to 160 horses are trotted up at first light for inspection, immediate attention where necessary, and making a plan for his or her day is of paramount importance. Pre-trainers and ready-to-runs are also joined by resting racehorses due to return to training soon. But it's really Mark and Nicola's background that's absolutely critical.
Both of our backgrounds has been vital in how well we've done in a short space of time here in South Africa. I am a trainer. I still have my licence in Ireland, where I did specialise in national hunt flat races, which are called bumpers. Mark's background was more in the polo end, where he was a professional player, has had to stop because of the business here. We're so busy. I think the Irish element is very important. We've brought Ireland into South Africa with our techniques of schooling and starting yearlings and 2-year-olds.
In South Africa, they talk about the legacy of Sid Laird, Sid Garrett, trainers that you've probably heard of.
Yes.
There's nothing quite as global as the reputation that precedes Vincent O'Brien, and you've had some experience with Mr. O'Brien.
I was very lucky, very fortunate. My father got me placed at the age of 14 with Vincent to learn to work ride. I repeatedly went back for 3 years in school holidays, and then I was very lucky to have spent a couple of years with him working by his side. I learned a lot from Mr. O'Brien. I call him the master. He really was a legend.
They say that a horse is a horse is a horse. It doesn't matter what particular skill that horse has. He needs love, he needs nurturing, he needs grounding. That's really what this whole establishment's all about.
That's correct. And it doesn't matter what equine background you come from, as long as it's been a professional background, i.e. attention to detail, dedication, and I believe that's what we have here. I also was a 3-day eventer for Ireland and the UK for 16 years, going to 2 Olympics. So I think all of those backgrounds put together as one, we're producing a brand name, Balmoral as a brand name. We're looking for repeat business, which we have been getting in the past 5 years. And we have a lot of loyal clients, and they know who they are. We actually are in effect producing 2-year-olds in training, because as you know, we're specialising in the breeze-up preparation. We're actually taking 2 drafts, one to the CTS breeze-up and one to the TBA breeze-up. The CTS breeze-up sales is young. This is now its 3rd year. We've been there from the 1st year, and each year we've increased our draft. This year we're taking probably about 30 horses, but we're taking double to the TBA. But that might change. It depends. It's more of a pilot scheme. We're the only breeze-up specialists that are going down to the CTS, and the same in the last 2 years.
Well, they say that the price of survival is change.
Yes.
People hate change, but sometimes it's critical to survival. And I think that this particular statement in your brochure, your beautifully put together brochure, and something that you've promoted right from the beginning, that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. It's something that you can't practice if you don't believe in it, but it's clearly evident you and Mark are dyed-in-the-wool horse lovers, passionate horse people, and therefore it must come a lot easier than having to try and practice something like that.
It's in our everyday thoughts and in our future plans. We aim to make Balmoral number one in the Southern Hemisphere, not just South Africa. We believe in excellence. We believe that if you're going to do something, you do it to your best ability, and that's on a daily basis.
Your job is to try and produce those horses that are going to give a trainer or a prospective owner at the top end of the market a good innings with that horse, and that he's not just going to have a one-season wonder that gives him a short, quick fix. Is that more or less on the money?
That's correct. Each year we've been speculate buying, which I think people are more familiar with calling it pinhooking.
Yes, I think it's very refreshing that you've actually touched on that, because a lot of people, they know more or less what pinhooking is, but I think now that we're on that subject, explain to the uninitiated who might catch this interview exactly how it works.
We will go to every sale in South Africa, most of the sales in Australia. We've started to go to some in the UK and Ireland, and what we're trying to do is to buy a yearling that we can produce at a later stage, i.e. as a breeze-up horse that can increase in value. So it's really speculating. And you have to have a cut-off level. You don't overpay for the individual, or you're not going to make money for your client or for Balmoral itself. We're very fortunate in that we have a lot of overseas investors in Balmoral, in that we will buy on their behalf horses at the yearling sales, whether it be here or in Australia. We very much go on confirmation, because if you buy a horse that has a conformational defect, that's going to make our job much more difficult in prepping him, and it will make the trainer's job much more difficult when he's training the horse. There are exceptions to the rules, of course. There are horses with very skew legs.
JJ the jet
plane, where he's now retired here, of course. But he was one of the few. The majority, you have to go with good conformation. Then secondly, the pedigree is vital as well, because as a resale, you have to have a good page and a good pedigree. And there's certain things that we will do at sales that other people don't do when we're checking our horses. And it means that you can imagine them with a saddle on their back and imagine what their stride will be like.
The introduction to this beautiful environment, and I think it's important that we talk about Moy River and the history that surrounds this beautiful place.
We chose Moy River because historically it's one of the richest valleys in Natal. It's a very, very good farmland. Balmoral itself hadn't been used as a horse farm for over 30 years, so it wasn't horse sick. And we restrict the numbers of horses on the farm for that reason as well. We run cattle through all the paddocks, keep them clean. And the horses have a lot of space here and undulating hills. And coming also from Ireland, we appreciate the good pastures and also the hills. Hills are vital for the strengthening of the babies. We have covered our grass tracks for this time of the year during the winter because we've no rain with shavings. The bedding is put on a daily basis. We keep it topped up to a certain level. It's not heavy going, but it's got a beautiful cushion, which is perfect for the young joints to be cantering on the tracks.
And I think you're also strategically positioned in that a yard that is actually fully operational as far as a racehorse trainer is concerned is just a stone's throw away for you for your official gallops.
Yes, exactly. And we've booked Yellow Star for 5 years, their track, which we're using for our gallops. We did our own gallops, the Balmoral gallops last year for the first time. And we're running our gallops again this year on the 16th of October at 11:30. And everyone's welcome. We will send out invites.
Well, let's go to the racetracks now. Let's take a look at some of the fruits of your endeavours. Run us by some of the names.
Okay, beginning with the Apache. He was pre-trained here. Silver Flyer, Exhilaration, Kissing Cousin. They're all Group 1s or Group 2s. But I think we've a lot of young stars coming through, particularly from last year's Dream Upon a Dream. Malta Rocks, In the Cruise, Red Star, King Mambo's legacy. They've all come out, they've won, the trainers are thinking that there's something special with those horses.
Summerhill,
Yes.
across the way,
Yes.
is both opposition and ally in
Yes.
respect of the work that they're doing at their School of Excellence.
Absolutely, and we actually have employed one of their ex-students, and she's with us for a short time before she goes off to Australia. She certainly is quite knowledgeable, so they've obviously, it's a good programme.
And of course, just like the Cape Thoroughbred sales has elevated the inclination of the TBA to lift their game, it must be daunting and yet very challenging to have a man that practices the kind of excellence that Mickey is so famous for.
I think we both have a mutual respect for each other. We appreciate that each other, we're both professional in what we do, and we can play off each other. There is enough to go around, exactly.